Okay, do you want to help us humiliate Donald Trump? Do you want to help stop this big bullshit bill? Do you want to show Congress, especially the cowardly Republican senators and House members who are doing nothing to stop Donald Trump, that we are going to vote them out? If your answer is yes to all of those questions, we need you to come out on June 14th. We are having the biggest protest we have had yet. It will be peaceful, as every single one of them has been. There will be families, there will be kids, there will be nice people. Lots of us will be holding American flags because, after all, we are the patriots in this situation. And we are going to turn out in almost every town in the country to say no way. To say we don't want a dictator. We are not interested in living in an authoritarian state. We despise the corruption that we see in our current government. We despise the grift that we're seeing, the self-seeking on our president's part, the Christian nationalism that has infected and taken over our government, the cruelty to immigrants, the absolute unwillingness to do anything to help regular Americans, the attempts to take away our health care and our food assistance, for rich people to pay less taxes. We are not okay with any of it. It's not enough to say that. We have to show up and show it. Trump is having a parade on Saturday, June 14th. $50 million of taxpayer money is going to be to show that Trump is a strong man. Guess what? We don't do strong men. This is a democracy. If you agree with me, it is not enough to nod. You guys, I love you. I see you. You're nodding and you're like, I agree with her, but I don't want to do anything. It doesn't matter. It's not about what we want to do right now. It is about what we do, what the world sees us do, what our children see us do, what history sees us do, what Trump and Republicans see us do. Because if they don't see us do it, this is going to get a lot worse. Come out on June 14th. NoKings.org. There are over 1,600 protests planned at this point all across the country. Humiliate Donald Trump. Let his military parade be ignored because we are fighting peacefully for democracy on that day. Come out on June 14th. Bring a friend, bring three, and show democracy that you care. Let's do it, and let's do it big.
Hello guys, I hope you're doing fine wherever you're watching us from. And if you're watching us for the first time, please don't forget to subscribe. And today's episode, we are looking at how Trump is actually losing it, because the people who elected him are actually regretting. People who elected him are actually feeling that this regime have failed them, and that's why they have programmed or arranged for mass protest on June 14. Let me know your opinion on this in my comment section, and let's watch the videos, then I'll come back with more commentary.
You know why Trump is invading Los Angeles, right? Not because he wants to be a dictator. It's not because he hates Gavin Newsom. It's not even because he hates immigrants. All these things are true, of course, but they aren't the primary reason. Think through it for a second. His economic agenda is dead. His foreign policy is dead. Canada, Panama, and Greenland are still not ours. RFK has gone fully rogue, clubbing public health policies over the heads like they were baby bears with brainworms. Elon Musk thinks he's a cuck. His federal layoffs are backfiring in his face. I don't think he's seen Ivanka in 4 years. Melania definitely thinks he's a douche. Barron can't get into Harvard, which, if you recall, still has foreign students. And I tried to book a vacation suite at the Gaza Strip Trump Hotel. It turns out that wasn't real either. 5 months of failure without a single meaningful policy signed by Donald Trump. He can't even get a simple budget through the government he controls. His second term so far has been a conveyor belt for press releases from his desk to the shred bin at the Supreme Court, leaving him nothing more than the power conveyed by a handful of centuries-old emergency powers that I think honestly Congress would have gotten rid of if anyone believed a future president would be stupid enough to try to use them. But just like we saw with the Alien Enemies Act, I think it's extremely unlikely those other obscure emergency powers will hold up under scrutiny. Donald Trump didn't invade Los Angeles because it's something that needs to be done. He invaded Los Angeles for one reason only. He doesn't know what else to do.
So what is the most important story in our news right now, in our country, in this moment in American history? I mean, there is clearly, I think if we're being honest, we sort of stop beating around the bush about it. There's really no question what the United States is up against right now. I mean, the intentions of this president are not a mystery. There's no suspense. There's no ambiguity, right? We know exactly who he is. We know exactly what he wants to do to the country, right? No question, no mystery. It's as plain as day. The real question we are contending with, the real black box, the real drama, the story that really does need to be dug up and explained and told in our country because it is as yet undecided. The real mystery is not him. We know him. We know what he wants and what he's trying to do. The real mystery is, will he succeed? Will he get what he wants? And the answer to that will not be found by looking at him or by watching his actions. The answer to that question will come from the people of this country. The most important story of our time is this one. What is this country going to allow him to do? This is an attempted authoritarian overthrow of the United States Constitution and the U.S. government, the attempted imposition of a dictatorial regime. That is clear. That is unambiguous. I think it is unquestioned. I think there are very few people on any side of American politics who would contend with that. The question is whether it will work. And the way we will find out whether or not it's going to work is not going to be something that happens in the White House. It's going to be something that happens in the streets and in the courts and in the states and in Congress and in every other place that people are trying to say no. The strength of the movement against him is what will determine our fate as a country. And what we are seeing over and over again in what I believe is the most important story in the country, what we are seeing over and over again is that protesting against him works. That he wants to seem strong, but he is not that strong. Organizing against him works. Fighting him in court works. Pushing back works. Protesting in the streets works. And so Marcelo is free in Milford, Massachusetts. And Carol is free in Missouri. And the 4-year-old girl in Bakersfield, California is free and alive. And in Albuquerque, the movement to keep Antonio here means that Antonio is still here. And none of these things are instant, right? And they don't always work. But pushback is the only thing that ever does work.
So why do you think he invaded California with the military? Because everything that he's trying to do is failing. All those countries that were supposedly running to the White House for trade deals, there's no trade deals, not one in 90 days. So of course he has to get a distraction for his MAGA cult. Well, you people in California are not doing yourselves a favor. Flying the Mexican flag to give Fox News propaganda like California is being invaded and you're flying a flag of a country you don't want to go back to. Where is the U.S. flag? Where is the California flag? You guys really don't know how to protest. You want to stay in America. Fly the American flag. You don't want to stay in Mexico. You don't want to go to Palestine. You don't want to go to any of these other countries. This is why you want black people in the movement to come out and help you. Because when the black people were fighting for civil rights, did you see any of them in the civil rights movement flying any African flags? No. They were flying the U.S. flag that they want U.S. rights, constitutional rights. So stop with the flying of this Mexican flag. If you're flying that flag, then I think you need to go back to Mexico. You need to be strategic. You're all not being strategic. And setting cars on fire is really stupid. Aren't you over that? Aren't you? And not only that, did you forget about the Boogaloo Boys? Did you forget about the guy who started the fire at the police station? The white agitators? You have to be strategic. And all of this is because he's being blocked in court for everything that he's doing. But in the meantime, he's still trying to destroy the country. But you guys need to get your act together.
And this week, every accusation is a confession. It looks like the voting machines were tampered with before the 2024 election. And this is what proof looks like, MAGA, and there will be a court case about this. Major changes in voting machines by pro-V&V used in about 40% of our U.S. counties was never publicly reviewed or disclosed. Watchdog group Smart Elections flagged suspicious updates, missing votes, and statistical anomalies suggesting potential vote tampering. They made these changes with no public notice, no formal testing, and no third-party oversight. The lab approved updates to ballot scanners, printer reconfigurations, firmware upgrades. Instead of labeling these as major changes, they said that they were insignificant tweaks. This classification allowed them to bypass public scrutiny and avoid triggering full-scale testing or certification processes. Soon as the machines went live, complaints began to surface. Such area is Rockland County, New York, where several voters testified under oath that their ballots didn't match the official results. For example, in one district, 9 voters claimed they voted for Saar, but only 5 votes were recorded. In another, 5 voters swore they supported her, but only 3 votes appeared. And what was really odd is in multiple Democratic-leaning areas, Kamala Harris's name is reportedly missing from the top of the ballot entirely. These same areas had high support for Democrat senators, yet Harris received 0 votes. 0 votes. 0 votes. Even more shocking, Donald Trump received 750,000 more votes than Republican Senate candidates in these districts. That's not split ticket voting, that's a mathematic anomaly. According to the report, once the controversy began to gain traction, pro-V&V websites went dark, leaving only a phone number and a generic email, no public logs, no documentations, no comment. These EAC, or election assistant commissions, have no real public oversight. The EAC has 4 commissioners, 2, Benjamin Hovland and Donald Palmer, who were appointed by Donald Trump during his first presidency. With actual evidence, people are now beginning to ask, did Kamala Harris win the election? Now, all this will play out in the court system, which could set off wider probes from state investigations to criminal inquiries. This goes with those kind of cryptic messages. Anything can be hacked. Without me, Trump would have lost the election. Trump himself, he knows those computers better than anybody, all the computers, those voting computers. And we ended up winning Pennsylvania, like in a landslide. But don't get excited. The elections have been certified. Donald Trump is the president of the United States. And these lawsuits are not going to change that, even if voter fraud is found. From my reading, the only thing that could possibly happen if he was involved would be impeachment, but that's highly unlikely considering the makeup of the House of Representatives and the Senate. And remember, he controls the FBI and the DOJ as well. But every American should be concerned with this. Now, I'm going to wait for it to be played out in the court system, where evidence will be presented. Until then, I just thought it was a very interesting read, and I wanted to share it with you all.
New York Times journalist came right out and said it on Democracy Now! This morning. Trump's massive deportation plan is not really about fighting crime. That's one of the biggest lies that's ever been told in history. So what is it about? It's about racially re-engineering the United States. That's what it's about. Changing the culture of the United States, changing the racial profile of what the United States looks like. The true goal of Donald Trump, Stephen Miller, Project 2025, and the techno-fascists all revolve around this pseudo-scientific belief that there is a racial superiority among the original people who immigrated to the United States, the first white Anglo-Saxon Protestant settlers, and they believe that these are the true Americans. And once the Latinos and black people and other immigrants to this country are either imprisoned in for-profit prisons or deported, and that our laws that demand equality are reversed or perverted. It's an attempt to reposition these white men into the original positions of power that they imagined from the early days of the country. If you were really to go and look at Project 2025 and look at the comments that have been made by Donald Trump, Kristi Noem, J.D. Vance, and the so-called intellectuals behind the MAGA movement, such as Steve Bannon and the other people that are forming this techno-fascist movement, there is a common theme which I'll break down for you. Number one, reverse the racial diversification of America. Me, as a teacher, as a young teacher, I remember in the early 90s when our school curriculums began to change by bringing in more Black and Latino authors who were not recognized by the people in the past who represented a very white version of American culture, which Trump wants us to go back to. What an outcry when we began to bring in books like The House on Mango Street and Maya Angelou's I Know Why the Caged Bird Sings. And we were listening to the comments of the very same people involved in this Trump movement saying that it was political correctness, making us push to the side the more valued and more skilled white writers in order to have this political correctness of multiculturalism. I know these people for a very long time because they affected me in my classroom that way. And now you see Trump removing from libraries some of the very same books because he's calling them woke. So beyond that, we want to see changes that Trump will use to privilege white Christian dominance, to redefine citizenship for European descendants and people that are so-called culturally pure. And now we see him crushing these laws that allowed people to escape violence and war in their countries under international law, turning their backs on refugees who really need the help of our country, and only making an exception for white people from South Africa. He would bring them in big numbers and continue to move out Latinos and Caribbean immigrants of all colors, filling private prisons, filling airplanes, deporting people to private prisons, and trying to use propaganda to convince the American public that these people are criminals, where we know scientifically, looking at data, that the immigrant community commits far less crime than the so-called native population. It's just incredible. I really just can't understand how my Black and Latino friends who still support Trump have had their eyes and ears closed. I mean, Trump has been talking from his earliest days about not allowing immigrants from what he calls shithole countries, which naming almost all the Latin American countries and saying we should instead bring in people from places like Norway. Do I have to spell it out for you for what that means? Let me just close by saying the United States has made the biggest mistake that any country has ever made by opening the door to these white supremacists. These are people from the very fringes of society that are going to do great damage to our country the longer they remain in power. Please share your thoughts in the comments and please share this video. Thank you.
All right, happy lunchtime. Well, it's that time again. It's that time again. Remember back in January when Los Angeles had wildfires and MAGA collectively were praying that Los Angeles and Hollywood would burn. They were posting Bible verses about how Hollywood and California are evil, and that at least Los Angeles County should burn to the ground, and all while proclaiming loudly their Christianity and their belief in Jesus Christ, while wanting the most populated state in the United States of America to burn to the ground. We're back again. Now that there is some disruption in Los Angeles that Donald Trump started with his ICE raids to get rid of criminals, the worst of the worst, the rapists, the murderers, the drug dealers, the cartel members. But they're only raiding businesses where people work, where these immigrants have jobs. Again, we're right back there. I duetted a video from some inbred red state fart huffing uneducated MAGA chud earlier today, Tuesday, June 10th, where he was hoping that Los Angeles would burn to the ground because nobody else in the country gives a shit about California. He hoped that the entire state of California, with its fourth largest economy on the planet, would burn to the ground. He's a good Christian. The comments in his comments section were that California, and of course it's a given. It doesn't need to be said, but it's true that virtually every single one of these comments was misspelled. Because MAGA are fucking stupid. The comments were, California is evil. I hope the whole state burns to the ground. California should fall into the ocean. Why can't we be rid of California? Any number of just heinous, horrific comments that you can possibly imagine. And you know, it should be understood that 19 states, I mean, these are the same people who are mooching every single day of their lives from my tax dollars that I pay, who then tell me that they think I should die in a fire. I've lived in California, in San Francisco, in the Bay Area for over 25 years. And New York paid $90 billion to the federal government, more than the federal funds that they received in return. California, $80 billion. New Jersey, $70 billion. Blue states pay for red states. States that paid more to the federal government than they received back: Rhode Island, Connecticut, Delaware, Colorado, Illinois, Minnesota, Massachusetts, Washington, New Jersey, California, New York. States that, I mean, Kentucky gets $3.35 from the federal government for every $1 that they send to the federal government. Mooch. You guys are takers. Red states are takers. Other states who receive more than they pay in: Alabama, South Carolina, Mississippi, Louisiana, Kentucky, West Virginia, Oklahoma, Alaska, North Carolina, Montana, Iowa, Indiana, Nevada, Arkansas, South Dakota, North Dakota, Wyoming. All of you guys are takers. All of you guys live off of my taxpayer dollars that I pay from here in California. And I guess Donald Trump has fixed one thing. Donald Trump has fixed one thing in this regard. No longer will these states be receiving federal assistance for natural disasters. Donald Trump has effectively defunded FEMA. So my tax dollars will no longer be going to Texas, Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, Florida, Georgia, South Carolina, North Carolina, Tennessee, Arkansas, Oklahoma, Kansas, Nebraska for things like hurricanes or tornadoes, West Virginia, flooding. All of those states are red states that voted for Donald Trump. So we're in the middle, we're in week 2 of hurricane season. Arkansas, you had your tornadoes earlier this year. Your governor, who used to be Donald Trump's press secretary, couldn't get him to shake loose any FEMA money. Missouri, same for you. Oklahoma, same for you. The tornadoes that ripped through through Kansas, Missouri, Kentucky, in West Virginia, the flooding that West Virginia gets, no more FEMA money for you guys. You're going to have to get through that stuff on your own without my tax dollars. Tornadoes in Oklahoma, Texas, Kansas, Nebraska, South Dakota, North Dakota, Montana, Wyoming. No more of my tax dollars going to you guys for that stuff. Federal disaster relief is now left up to the states, and you guys have elected Republican governors, Republican houses, Republican senates. You have given them supermajorities. So now you guys can rely on the state governments that you elected to take care of your natural disaster relief aid. You might want to check with Arkansas, Missouri, Kentucky, West Virginia, and get a little taste for how that's going so far this year. Devastating tornadoes, devastating storms, devastating flooding. Donald Trump doesn't even mention them. He doesn't even bring them up in states that voted overwhelmingly for him. And he has cut off FEMA money. You're not even getting your initial $750 that you guys screamed about from Joe Biden and Kamala Harris when Hurricane Helene hit eastern Tennessee and western North Carolina. You guys aren't even getting your $750. No more of my federal tax dollars in California are flowing to you lazy deadbeat socialists with your hands out, while you are currently saying that you hope that Los Angeles County and the rest of my state burns to the ground because you think I'm evil, and because you think our state is evil, and because you think our governor should be arrested. No more disaster relief from you guys. I don't have to pay for that shit anymore. I don't have to hand over my tax dollars to people who say that kind of shit about me and the state that I live in. All the states that I listed, go fuck yourselves. Have a great summer.
Hello and welcome back. As evident in this video, this regime have actually failed those people who elected this regime. You know, from the cutting of Medicaid and Medicare to actually ensure that white elites or white rich people are not taxed more, to actually the immigration policies, you know, deploying the IC to actually go and harass families of Latino community, the families of Cuban people, separating children with their parents. You know, people are actually very disappointed by this regime, and we are not actually seeing any positive policy that Trump has done. You know, even the international relationship, this regime have destroyed the international relationship, because the way Trump treats other leaders of other nations, the way Trump is imposing tariffs is actually frustrating, and this is affecting America negatively. And that's why the people who elected this regime are actually angry, and they are not seeing anything good with this regime. Especially personally, this regime have really failed expressing the humanity. I've seen the deportation, I've seen the ISIS harass people with proper documentation, and it doesn't feel nice. Though I don't actually advocate for the ISIS, but I think that people messed up during election. That was the point where people could have made the right choice, because they already knew the policies of Donald Trump against immigration, and they went ahead and voted. And in particular, the Latinos for Trump, they were warned by black Americans, but they never listened. They associated themselves and separated themselves from the rest of the minority group. And I think these are the consequences. But although I don't advocate for the suffering, I feel for them. But it is what it is. And I hope that most of the minority community will learn the hard way. We learn this lesson. And in the coming election, we will make the correct choices. Let me know what you think about this episode. And of course, if you have not subscribed, please do so. We will really appreciate. Until we meet in my next video, peace, love, and harmony.